Morning! Today I'm very excited, would you believe it, because I'm gonna be starting to use a resource again that used to be one of my favorites, and I used it tremendously for my French, and it really helped me to get going with French. Just over the years I haven't really needed it because I've had other things that I've been testing out and using, and so today, finally, with Mandarin Chinese, I've decided that that is just the ticket, the thing I need, and so we'll be discussing that in today's episode. So I just got home from the coffee shop, and as you've probably seen by now, the resource that I'm talking about is Assimil Chinese. Now, Assimil is very popular in the polyglot community, so people who are really enthusiastic about learning lots of languages. I think Assimil is pretty well known, but I don't think it's well known in sort of the just general space of language learning, certainly in the English-speaking world. I don't think that many people are aware of it, but it's a really great resource, and I first learned about this when I first got into the sort of polyglot space and started learning French while I was in Japan, after already speaking Japanese at a very, very high level. And I remember it was just such a delightful, you know what, I think I've got my French one here, hold on, just a second. Alright, here it is. This is my Assimil French book. Oh, it's such a nice memory to even hold this thing. I haven't opened it for a very long time. God, if you just flip through, you can see it's just got like, it's highlighting all over it, and it's just marked up all over the place. And I remember what I did is the first time through, I just sort of did it and took notes. The second time through, I started sort of adding these sort of like tick marks there, just so that I could see how far I'd gone the second time, and then I started like highlighting it the third time. So I went through this book like 3 times. It's all dog-eared, but this book really, really did give me such a great introduction to French. And I remember I really, really stuck this out, and I used to cook my breakfast in my sort of dorm in Japan every morning, and I would listen to all the sort of the audio tracks that I had done so far, and I would put them on shuffle so that like once I got to lesson 10, I was constantly shuffling through lessons 1 through 10 and shadowing and doing all sorts of stuff. It was just a really delightful part of my experience also in Japan, you know, like diving into French. And I remember having my very, very first attempt at a French conversation, and it was just, see, look, some of these are still folded. That's just really, really delightful to see. That was lesson 70. It's just really nice to see that. And so I haven't really, so I remember that after I studied French Assimil, I ended up having Norwegian Assimil in French. I ended up with Spanish Assimil and German, and I had all sorts of them. But then in the last few years, I just haven't really used it. I've been testing out all sorts of different applications, other books. I used Babbel, obviously, for a lot of my beginner sort of language study, and then I often found that that was enough to just dive straight into authentic content. And so now, you know, I've gone over a lot of beginner resources in Mandarin, and I'm finding myself actually very comfortable now with the beginner material, and I'm sort of naturally starting to get this urge to express myself. I spoke in a recent episode about how I don't really tend to speak terribly early on. I'm always using my mouth. I'm always saying things in the target language. I'm constantly repeating, constantly saying phrases, and I'm constantly also just constructing sentences by myself. You know, like if I'm tired, I'll just say, well, Layla. But it's not like I'm trying to speak expressively and creatively. I'm just making sentences. But it takes quite a while before I really try to start actually speaking conversationally, especially relative to other people and other methods out there. But as I mentioned in that episode, I do end up speaking very well, I think much more quickly in the end than a lot of people. And so with Mandarin Chinese right now, I'm finding that I'm starting to get that urge where I'm wanting to say things, but I don't quite have enough yet. I don't quite have enough words or enough sort of sentence constructions and patterns and grammatical structures to really connect the dots and express everything I want. And typically I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm totally content to just continue sort of babbling along and saying things to myself and just lots and lots of input until I have enough to just start naturally speaking. And so I think it's actually a really good time to bring in a new resource like Assimil. I think that I do tend to prefer a more structured approach. If you've read my book or if you've watched my videos on how to maintain languages, I do talk about how I think an important component of developing a system that allows you to maintain a language more easily later on is having some level of organization and structure so that you can record the things you've done and you can review them very easily later on if you need to. So far, my Mandarin study has been a bit sort of all over the place because I've been trying different resources and trying to find something I really liked. So overall, it's been a good demonstration of how this can still work very well, even if you don't find resources that you personally really like. If you just stick with it and don't give up and keep trying new things to a degree, then you'll still be always learning more, always reinforcing everything. But I do think at this point I need something which is a bit more structured, something that actually has a beginning and an end that I can really work through. And I think Assimil provides that. This is volume 1. It goes all the way to sort of 49 or 50 lessons. And I had a look through, and I think this is going to be more than enough to get me to the point where I am ready to just dive into more authentic stuff. You may also know, if you've watched my channel for a while, that I tend to start just diving into reading, short stories or even short novels and watching TV shows and stuff. So again, although I ramp up kind of slowly and I do spend quite a bit of time on beginner content, and I'll tend to sort of learn the basics over and over again. I have a whole episode about that. But then I reach a point where I just dive in to authentic stuff, probably a lot earlier than most people, especially quite difficult authentic stuff that I really want to consume, like novels and TV shows and documentaries and all sorts of stuff. So that's where I am. And I'm very excited, so I'll be giving you updates on how this is going. This morning I already went through the first 3 or 4 lessons, and again, because I've done so much beginner content already, it was very easy to digest 3 or 4 or even 5 lessons in one sitting. And there were new words, like I did learn new stuff, but it's just that I know most of it, and so I'm able to just breeze right through. And again, even the stuff that's kind of easy for me, it's still all reinforcing those basics and those fundamentals that I've been working really hard to develop. So again, this kind of is the beauty of going over the basics several times from different resources and different contexts, because A, it keeps it more interesting, B, you really do sort of drill down and sort of start to master those basics. And you also get a good sense of accomplishment because you can start a beginner book like this and then realize, oh, the first 10 chapters are easy for me, and that helps you to see how far you've already come, because if this was day 1, this would be really, really difficult, but it's pretty simple. So I'm feeling good. That's it. So stay tuned for more updates on my Mandarin, and I do think very soon I'm just going to start feeling more comfortable just kind of speaking, and then we'll see how I do. Of course, if you enjoy these videos, please do subscribe, like, and leave me a comment. Let me know if you've used Assimil before, if you've heard about it, or give me updates on your language learning, how is it going, all that good stuff. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next episode.